Talk.
I believe that an enemy is coming from far away. I'm looking for warriors. This stranger.
Hey everybody, as requested, this is going to be my Justice League deleted scenes and alternate storylines video for all the stuff that got cut out and all of the changes to the story that was made through the process of making all the reshoots. So just careful for spoilers for everything that happens during Justice League. There's also a new round of the IMAX ticket giveaway going on. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. It's just for a generic movie. You can use it for any movie that you want because there's so much stuff happening between now and the end of the year. But the deleted scenes really fall into one of two categories. They're just cut for time in a scene that was already in the movie, like you see Superman talking to Lois. There's longer versions of that scene that were just cut for time. And then there are other scenes that were cut wholesale because they're part of deleted storylines. The black suit Superman of it all. The whole MacGuffin of the mother boxes, the cosmic nature of the story. So there's the Zack Snyder originally intended story, then there's the one that you got on screen because of all the changes they made. So we'll start with the really big stuff first, especially the deleted storylines, because some of the things are really fascinating, but you can understand how some of it is way darker than what they wanted to do, so some of the reshoots were intended to make the movie a little bit lighter. The mother boxes themselves, Steppenwolf keeps saying mother when he's talking to them, like there's an actual person inside the mother boxes. He's actually speaking to his mother Hegra, whose essence is contained in the mother boxes, and in the original version of the story, he was going to combine the boxes, release her, and use her power to defeat Darkseid and become one of the new gods. There's Black Suit Superman that was cut out because his entire storyline in the movie was completely changed, with a few scenes from the original Zack Snyder footage kept in. So one example of a scene that was always in the movie was when they're fighting him at the monument and he does the "do you bleed" line. That's from Zack Snyder, but you can sort of see the seams of the movie when he says that, because a confused Superman wouldn't be snarling like that. Like, very clearly there was part of an evil Superman storyline, and that all has to do with the way he was resurrected in the deleted storyline. Remember two key scenes from Batman v Superman. There's the Flashpoint sequence where Batman has the nightmare vision, then the Flash comes back. It's sort of like their Flashpoint scene where he tells him about Lois. Lois becomes the big gun that he uses during Justice League. And at the end of the movie, you see the dirt rising off of Superman's grave. But what did that have to do with them bringing him back during the actual theatrical cut? That was nowhere in the movie. Like, they completely changed the way they brought him back. So very clearly, there was a very different Superman storyline. There are a whole host of scenes from the original trailer Zack Snyder showed off at Comic-Con a couple years ago that didn't make it to the film. That's very clearly from the original Snyder cut before they ever thought about doing reshoots. So there's the shot of Batman on the horse as he's going to see Aquaman for the first time. They just sped through that storyline to get through things faster. But then Jason Momoa has explained that there was a ton of Atlantis stuff that they cut out. There was a scene with Vulko, played by Willem Dafoe's character. He's sort of like the science advisor to Aquaman as he's king of Atlantis. The scenes basically explained their backstory, how he had been taken to Atlantis and nobody wanted him because he was this half-breed. There was another scene after he gets done arguing with Mira where he goes to King Atlan's statue, takes the armor and the trident, and then goes back to help the Justice League. All that was cut out. There were a whole bunch of Flash scenes that were cut out. Some of them have leaked online since then. There was a scene in a cafe where he's getting coffee and then breaks through that window because he hears the car crash and saves Iris West. That was her brief scene during the movie, so they just cut that out wholesale. There was also the Flashpoint scene where he goes back in time to tell Batman what to do and how to defeat the evil Superman. Lois is the key. It was very clearly a setup for Batman to learn that the big gun he needed to use at this monument scene was Lois Lane. Probably one of the biggest ones is towards the end of the movie when Alfred is standing there working on something and someone comes into frame and he says, "He said you would come," and people are like, who is that? Is it Green Lantern? Is it Supergirl? The whole thing is that was intended to be Superman before Superman goes to Russia to help them out. So it was sort of him getting the information about what the team was up to because he'd been on the farm that whole time. So it's not like they're all calling each other on cell phones. Like, somebody call Clark, tell him we're headed to Russia. He had to go learn that from Alfred. There was a whole bunch of J.K. Simmons that was cut out. Remember the scene when they're in the subway fighting Steppenwolf? In the setup for that, they make this reference to this tunnel that stopped construction in 1926 because of some crisis that happened. That was all part of a world building thing that they started between Metropolis and Gotham City back during Batman v Superman. That all got brushed over in that whole subway scene when Cyborg's like, here's the map, this is where we need to go to this place here. They just make a reference to something that happened back during the 20s. Cyborg was probably the character that lost the biggest number of scenes, just explaining what's going on with his character, showing off his abilities. There was that Batman 1989 shot where the Batwing flies up in front of the moon. Cyborg did a version of that. His full helmet comes on. They cut that out. That was also during that subway scene. And then there's another scene when they're in the Batcave talking about the Mother Box where Cyborg reconstructs this Nazi encampment digitally, and they're talking about Mother Box related things. They cut that out wholesale. Probably some of the coolest stuff that got cut out was that big flashback fight with Steppenwolf. Robin Wright Penn's character, Hippolyta, had dialogue during that. It explained a little bit more about the history of the DC universe, the cosmology, what was going on with Darkseid, the new gods, the old gods. At the beginning of the movie, when Steppenwolf boom tubes into Themyscira and tells Hippolyta, "Then you will finally love me," like after he conquers the Earth, part of the dialogue they cut out from that big flashback war is sort of set up for that, like what his relationship with Hippolyta was. But they also cut out a bunch of Batman and Wonder Woman scenes. There was that scene where they're talking about recruiting people after he goes to see Aquaman the first time. So there were a lot more Batcave scenes before the team came together. The scene where Bruce is shaving his beard off was actually filmed inside his house. That was originally intended to be a different set. They just turned it into his airplane. There's the scene of Cyborg saving the old Jimmy Olsen guard. That was probably during the big Superman fight at the monument, so they just changed that and they put him inside the prison. All of the scenes where Batman is driving the Batmobile around in the streets taking down parademons with the help of the other Justice League members was in a different location. They changed the CG, so originally this was at night somewhere in a different city. They changed it to red to make it seem more like daytime, I think just to make it brighter. But originally, most people think that this was not intended to be the big final battle. The original Superman story, like I said, was much darker, much more injustice-y. If you played the game, you've read the stories, you know he rips the Joker's heart out. It's like one of the most hardcore Superman panels you've ever seen. Like, oh my god, he's gone crazy. Originally, the belief is that that was the way they were going to defeat Steppenwolf. But in the theatrical cut of the film, they take him down by getting him to feel fear, so he's not dead when he's taken back to Darkseid and Apocalypse, arguably for some retribution. So then the movie ends, there's no Darkseid stuff. They do the 2 post-credit scenes, but aside from having a longer version of that Deathstroke post-credit scene, the only big thing they changed was Joss Whedon swapping in the Flash vs. Superman race. That was done more in service to bookend the film and make it feel like less of a setup for the next film. Like originally, you probably remember they were going to do part 1 and part 2 of Justice League. Part 2 was going to be all Darkseid stuff. So if you're wondering why they changed so many things, the idea is that they had this, Zack Snyder trilogy that they were intending to make, but when Batman v Superman came out, they saw the critical and the popular reaction to it, and they're like, okay, we need to tweak this. They saw how people reacted to Wonder Woman, so they're like, okay, we're going to give people what they want. But they'd already done so much work on Justice League. They literally started shooting that movie as Batman v Superman was hitting theaters. So they didn't know what people thought of Batman v Superman when they started working on Justice League. So by the time they found out, and then they knew what they wanted to do with the movie, they'd already done too much work on it to completely change it. So a lot of fans and a few people behind the camera have asked for a Zack Snyder cut of the film, like give us the 4-hour cut. They haven't said whether or not they're actually going to do that. What they might do is just do extended versions of scenes they cut for time instead of doing a completely different cut of the film. Because like I said, the film that Zack Snyder shot is a completely different story than what we actually ended up with on screen. But let me know in the comments, what's your favorite deleted scene or deleted storyline? And I know a lot of people are asking about what's going on with Flashpoint now because they confirmed that Batman's going to be a part of that. I will do another Flashpoint video in the next couple of days. I've already done a couple. They're in my Justice League playlist, so you can just scan down that. I'll link it at the end of the video. But congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, Eduardo End. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. There was a new round in this video. I'll just announce a winner the next time I post a DC video. So you can click here for last night's Flash, and you can click here for all my Justice League Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.